The Lighthouse build Des Moines, as some people in my clan have gone to calling these ships, is where you take no concealment and you build your ship for the most DPM possible. As I'm sure some of you have seen, there's some skills in the new cruiser tech tree where you can increase your concealment range while also increasing the damage output of your HE shells. And if you do that, there's also a skill at tier 4 where you get an 8% reload buff if somebody's within your standard detection range. So if you take full reload buffs on the Des Moines with all of this crazy anti-concealment build, so like a Lighthouse, you want to be seen, the ship gets a near 4-second reload on its main guns when somebody is spotted within your concealment range. And so on the minimap, you can see that's actually 15 kilometers, pretty much. So almost all the time, you get a reload buff on this ship. Now, this is a really dumb build to play. I would not recommend it if you're looking for an optimal build. I've been playing around with the cruisers to try and find more optimal builds for cruisers this patch, because there are some new, interesting, unique skills that do need to be tested, but realistically, this build is too hard to run in tier 10. Look at where we have to go just to be in range of things on the enemy team. That's the whole problem. The passive meta really doesn't allow for these kind of builds on most ships except the Henry. I'll probably be doing some sort of the standard cruiser build or some kind of build guide for cruisers in the next little bit here, similar to what I did for battleships early on. It's just taken me longer to play enough cruisers to feel confident in my captain builds. I've just been playing more battleships this patch, like I usually do. But this build is fun. I can't say you'll have good games all the time, but I've had some pretty awesome games running this, where your insane DPM just carries you through most situations. Sometimes you do have to just bow into things and hope you live. I have died, of course, multiple times trying to get into range, but you'll notice we have a spotter plane. And much like in my Venezia video from the other day, I run spotter plane for the exact same reason. It helps you to be in range more often, and you take the spotter plane mod to be, the mod and the captain skill. The captain skill reduces the cooldown for a reduction in the active time, and I think it is well worth the trade-off to get the more often spotter plane instead of the longer duration spotter plane. I like it a lot. So you can see our reload here is just nuts. We're just kind of melting these ships, forcing them off the map, and that pretty much wins us this game with our team here. Getting 60k this early on into the match is pretty hilarious. My div mate has taken some damage. He's in a Salem, so honestly it's not that big of a deal because Salem gets a crazy heal. The reason you would run a Salem with this build over the Des Moines is that heal. You can play much more aggressively without dying, because your heal is essentially a Minotaur heal. The only problem is you don't have access to a spotter plane, so you're less flexible, but in dangerous situations you're more survivable. So a Salem could definitely run this build as well. I'm pretty sure Malta is running this build on his Salem right now too. You can see he pops back up with almost full health, which is pretty hilarious. Those heals are pretty fun to use. And just watch how fast this Yamato gets melted down by us and a few people on our team. But I would say it's majority of it is us with doing massive amounts of HE and fire damage. And when he turns broadside to try and get away, the AP is no joke on this ship as well. As I think everybody knows at this point, Des Moines AP is very, very, very strong. You're going to get 5,000 to 6,000 damage if you hit the upper belt nicely. There's a 4,000 damage one. And this coming at you every 4 seconds is pretty disgusting. The original stats of the Des Moines had it at a 6-second reload on the main guns when it originally came into the game. So for us to be near a 4-second reload is a pretty crazy power jump. And That last game ended soon after that. The enemy team just kind of ended up dying after that. But I wanted to show that one as an example of it is possible to use islands and play around islands without a destroyer buddy. In this one, I have a destroyer friend who is... his entire goal is to smoke up friendlies. That's kind of... this is BFK's alt account. And his entire goal with it is to just smoke people up and spot and help people get as much damage as possible. So that's what we're going to do in this one. And let me tell you, this is a very, very strong combination. I have changed my build up since that last game. The no concealment is a little bit too much to run, so in this one you'll notice that I do have more of a normal build. It still has like I think 13 kilometer concealment, but it's a lot of fun to run. I'm still only running the spotter plane and the defensive fire though, so against destroyers you're less good, but for the most part your team can deal with DDs without your radar. There's often CVs to spot them. There's often going to be destroyers just ending up fighting each other. So as long as you're in the general area and you can impact that fight, not having radar isn't the biggest loss. But again, this is a very selfish build. This isn't a team play build. This is a I'm going to get as much damage as I possibly can kind of build. And that's what we're going to do in this one. This one I believe we get up to... I don't think I quite get 300k in this one, but this is a good game. One of my favorites of this patch so far, for sure. And Cruiser is just awesome this patch. I see a lot of people complaining or saying that cruisers aren't very good this patch, and I disagree. They're a little bit more difficult to play because people aren't just, you know, YOLOing into you and pushing all the time in their battleships. So it's a little bit harder to get your damage, but the way people are playing so far back allows you to take aggressive positions like I am right now. So you'll find oftentimes that because people are so far back, you can actually get very safely into very aggressive positions. And of course in a carrier game, you have to be a little careful about that. If you're relying on islands too much, you're very stationary, and it's very easy for the carrier to just come and kill you. So something to be aware of. But Des Moines with defensive fire is a pretty strong AA platform. It's not the best, but it's decent enough that a carrier probably won't want to drop you multiple times if they know that you have defensive fire and you start killing a bunch of their planes. And here you can see the usefulness of having a spotter plane. We don't have to go too aggressive to get these shots out on the Thunder. I think this playstyle is fun. It's less passive. It's a little more aggressive than a traditional Des Moines with radar. And that's fun for me. I found that battleships have a tough time pushing in this patch, I think as most people have. And to be able to do it with a cruiser is interesting because you have a better detection. Having better detection just allows you to get into these more interesting islands. It allows you to disengage easier. And because you're less reliant on armor piercing against broadside ships, your HE DPM is really, really strong, of course, on a Des Moines. Then you actually get a lot more consistency out of cruisers than you will out of battleships these days. Now, there's something to be said for Thunder's consistency. I know that ship is kind of crazy in its consistency with high explosive, but I don't think Thunder's nearly as fun to play as Des Moines is like this. We're right in the thick of it with these battleships. Of course, I'm lucky. This is a Jean Bart with 380mm guns, and there's basically nothing he can do to me with high explosive. That's the one downside of these lower tier French battleships. They have 380mm guns, and they cannot overmatch 27mm of armor, which is what my bow has. We get crushed a little bit by the Conqueror, so high explosive, of course, doesn't care about your angling or your armor, so that's a bit of a bummer. You can see I'm shooting AP at him, and I'm trying to not hit his super saturated bow or midsection, but saturation mechanics can actually help you out a lot if it's a situation where you've lost all your health very quickly. The unfortunate thing is, as soon as you heal, all that saturation goes away and your ship becomes very easy to kill again. I think that maybe making saturation work like this all the time, even after you've used heals, might make battleships a little tankier to push in, that kind of thing. But you can see, Des Moines is just a monster at these ranges. My reload is absolutely nuts. We're well under 4 seconds reload at this point on some of the best guns in the game, I would say. The armor-piercing pen angles are very, very, very good, as most of you know. You basically have to bow straight into a Des Moines, otherwise its armor-piercing will be able to pen you, just because of the crazy normalization that it gets. Something to keep in mind, though, is your ship is not crazy tanky. You're not a Petro, you're not a Moskva, you're not a Stalingrad, so high explosive is going to deal a lot of damage to you. Giving broadside, of course, you're going to take a ton of damage from armor-piercing shots. So playing this ship aggressively does require careful use of islands. I'm sure you've seen my Petro videos where I just push into people and I'm bouncing and shattering shots left and right. AP and HE really have a tough time dealing with a Petro. But a Petro doesn't get this kind of insane reload on its shells. And the AP is really, really, really good on this ship. So there is that kind of upside that the Des Moines has over something like a Petro. Its guns are just way, way better, but you get worse armor. So you have to be a little bit careful in the way you play your ship. And that's why you see me being a little bit cautious, since I'm down to only 1 heal, and I'm about on half HP. So that's enough to force you to think about what you're doing. 17,000 health is not a lot when a Conqueror can get 2 salvos on you and kill you with high explosive. But a pretty good game so far, I would say. 175k in, you know, the first 8-9 minutes. That's pretty good. But you see how I'm playing, right? I'm using islands. I pushed up to a very aggressive island, but one that kept me safe. And now I'm using this island chain on my left to keep me safe from the Alaska, Conqueror, Thunderer, while I try and push up and get an angle on these guys. You'll notice that this push would not work if people were on the 1-2 line. So that's why I waited as long as I did to make this push eventually down here. I reversed to go deal with that Minotaur, that kind of thing, while I waited for my teammates to deal with the guys on the 1-2 line. You don't want to push along an island chain like this if you're giving broadside to someone. That's a very, very, very easy way to die. So, yes, this build is fun, but it requires a lot of situational awareness. And if you're someone who's able to do that, understands the position that they're in, understand what islands are good, understand where teams are likely to go, then you are probably going to have a good time with this build, I think. I certainly have had a lot of fun with this Des Moines build. You just have to realize that there are advantages to people playing at the back of the map. It's not just a negative. It allows for some of these crazy playstyles that, like this Des Moines here. If people played more aggressively, then a lot of times islands like the one I was at wouldn't be usable because I would just get outflanked. I do run Halsey on this, as you can see, so with the Confederate bonus, having a 3-second reload on Des Moines guns is kind of unfair, an unfair way to end the game. Because what are you going to do against a Des Moines with 3 seconds of reload? That's double. That's double the number of shells coming out of it compared to its base form when it originally was in the game. Things have gotten a lot stronger since the game released, that's for sure. So I don't blame people for not pushing in at all when this kind of stuff exists, right? Cruisers have traditionally been very powerful, and they still are in this patch. And it's very, very difficult for a battleship, or anyone really, to push into a ship like Des Moines with this kind of firepower. It's hard. And for those of you who are thinking that cruisers are bad this patch, I would have to disagree. They just need to be played a little more aggressively, and you just need to be aware of your surroundings, and you'll be able to play that slightly more aggressive playstyle. Yeah, they're a little harder, but I don't think they're bad, or as bad as people would suggest that they are, because battleships are camping the back. That's the thing. Camping the back of the map opens up opportunities in other areas on the map. It's harder for battleships to take advantage of that because of their poor concealment and maneuverability, but cruisers, I think, strike that nice balance of being able to play that aggressive role with their concealment and their maneuverability. So that's going to be this game done, and we're going to talk a little bit about the captain build. I'll go more into detail on what I think about all cruiser builds in the future. I'll probably try and work on that this weekend or something like that, get a full video out on what I'm considering for all cruisers, but for now, let's just take a look at the Des Moines. So the Des Moines commander I've been using is Halsey. Honestly, it's just really amazing when you get that Confederate like you saw. It's kind of hilarious. And then this is the build that I'm running right now. In the first game, I did not take Concealment Expert. I wanted to try the full Lighthouse with 15 kilometers of detection. That's not really necessary, I don't think. It's nice to have a little bit of concealment to push into different areas, but this top grade gunner is the skill I was talking about. You get 8% better reload when an enemy has been spotted within the standard detectability range, which is this here, detectability range by sea. And then heavy HE shells, it just gives you 10% better HE at a cost of concealment. But since we're getting 8% better reload when something's within our concealment, it actually synergizes pretty well. And this is kind of the Lighthouse build, these two together. In a Henry 4, you might even drop Concealment Expert altogether, and you would get yourself nearly 20 kilometers of concealment and an insane reload anytime you're shooting, basically. Superintendent's just nice for extra heals, Adrenaline Rush, I mean, pretty standard, honestly. You'll notice I'm not taking the heavy AP shells since it's a 5% bonus. Getting the better reload is usually better. And this is a 10% buff to my damage over a 5% buff. And HE is just more useful than AP is. AP, you're going to do massive damage against broadsides anyway, so that's why I'm taking this over it. Again, the Eye in the Sky skill, this is the spotter plane thing I was talking about, where you just have a spotter plane up that's more useful more often. I like it a lot. And then Gunfeeder is pretty standard on this commander. You switch your shells in like a second. It's pretty hilarious. And then the equipment I'm running, I'm running the reload mod, I'm running steering gears, I'm running prop mod, like all to get more maneuverable and then the better reload. I do run the turret traverse mod since it no longer reduces your reload now, so it's very, very good on a Des Moines. You still have like a 30-second turret traverse, which is not good, but this does help out a little bit. And then I have radar mod and spotter plane mod. I just leave these on because the other ones aren't very useful. And then depending on how I'm feeling like playing, I'll switch between radar and spotter plane. These modifications are really nice for when you're using those two consumables. And then you could take Hydro if you wanted to, but I just want to be a little bit safer from carriers. I really don't like getting struck over and over and over again by a carrier, but this is a really fun way to play Des Moines if you're looking for a less passive, boring playstyle in 10.0. Maybe give this Lighthouse Des Moines a shot. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you have a great day.